The City of Romulus Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting agenda for Wednesday, November the 1st, 2023 will come to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Lloyd?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Frederick?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
And Chandler is present. Item 3 is approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Lloyd. Excuse me. The motion is to approve the agenda. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The agenda has been approved. Item 4 is approval of the minutes of the Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting held on October the 4th, 2023.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Morris, to approve the minutes held on October the 4th, 2023. Take a roll call vote. Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. The minutes have been approved. Item 5, starting with business, it's new business. And the first item on the agenda under new business is for temporary attempt 2023-001 for Clarion Park and Fly. The location is 8600 Merriman. The parcel ID is 80043-99-0004-701. And the variance request, they are requesting a temporary use approval in accordance with Section 22.03E. And that's for temporary uses and buildings of the zoning ordinance to allow 30 parking spaces to be used for park and fly parking spaces. The project is use of existing parking lot for park and fly. And the petitioner is Amy Elgendi from Clarion Hotel. And when the person is present, come forward and give us your presentation. I hope I got the name right.
Yes, you did. Good evening. My name is Michael Zaks. I'm a consultant to the food, beverage, and hospitality industry. My address is 20720 North Home Street in Southfield, Michigan. I have Emmy Elgendi from the Clarion Hotel with me as well. I'd like to introduce ourselves and thank you for the opportunity to present this case. The Elgendi family bought the property. They closed on it just in January of this year, so they've only owned it for about 11 months. The property, as probably most of you know, was somewhat distressed when they bought it. Unfortunately, the prior owners did not give it the attention and the care that was really needed there. They eventually had homeless people wandering the walls and stopping in for breakfast, using the bathrooms, and so on and so forth. The Elgendis bought it with the intent to move it to the next level. They've spent a great deal of money on all facets of the hotel, trying to bring it to the next level. We feel that the request is necessary for the guests and for long-term parking. We think that it does not violate the spirit of the ordinance, and it's a reasonable request. I have Emmy Elgendi if you have any questions about the property specifically that you need answered, and we can address the board as those come up.
Hello, my name is Emmy. I am the new owner of the Clarion Hotel in Romulus. I just wanted to come up here and just introduce myself and Because I'm from New Jersey, and this is my first time coming up here and approaching the board and as an owner. So if you have any questions, I hope you guys take into consideration our request to continue the Park and Fly, because not only is it something we're doing to upscale the hotel, but just to help the city of Romulus as well.
All right, thank you. Well, at this point in time, we'll close that portion and we'll open it up for public comment. And for the record, notices have been sent out by first-class mail to property owners in the area. And at this point in time, if there's someone in the audience that would care to speak on this, would it be Tim Falvey? Would you come up to the microphone? And
Hello. My name's Tim Falvey. I'm the General Manager of Airlines Parking. I'm here representing our Vice President of Operations, Julie Allison, and our owner, Mike Koza. Back in June of last year, another hotel requested to get into the parking business as a temp use for 6 months. By August, they had bumped it up to a 12-month temp use. Our owner had asked me to read a letter at that time, and one of his concerns was what was there in place to stop them from asking for an extension each year on something that was supposed to be a temporary use. Said hotel, when asked the question of alternative use after their temp use was going to be over, they said they would address that in 12 to 18 months. By saying 12 to 18 months, they in effect created their own extension. Another concern of our owner was if you granted that other hotel permission for temp use parking, it would open the door for other hotels to petition for the same. And this would have a devastating effect on our business, our employees and their families, many of which are Romulus residents. Just as our owner had predicted, here's another hotel asking to get in the parking business. We have always sold Park and Fly vouchers to any hotel that wants to do Park and Fly programs. Any of our facilities offer that option. There's not a need to get another hotel into the parking business. Today at our lot, Airlines Parking, my car count was down 802 cars from prior to COVID. We have not recovered our levels from COVID, like many other businesses in this area. The hotel that petitioned last year cited COVID as the reason why they wanted to get into the temporary parking business. Why would it be okay to grant one business a sideline at the detriment of a long-standing business already in that profession? We have 3 parking lots within a quarter mile of the Clarion and the other hotel, empty, with a grand total of 3,500 spaces. We use them for automotive overflow because there's not enough parking need right now. So there's no point in having another hotel get into the parking business. Somebody would say that they're asking for a small number of cars. Well, that other hotel I mentioned was only supposed to park in a small area behind their hotel and a fenced-in and gated facility. As of today, there is no fence. There is no gate. And on every point of the compass around their parking lot is a sign that says, pay to park with your mobile device. So by effect, they were supposed to park in a small area behind the hotel. They've turned their entire parking lot into a pay-as-you-go parking facility. There's just basically no need for another hotel to get into the parking business. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, thank you. At this point in time, if there's anybody else care to speak on this? If not, we'll, Carol?
Emmy, did you want to show your presentation? Yes, I do. Yeah, they do have a presentation for you. There should be a clicker right there, and it's right over there on the screen.
So I took over the property in January of this year, 2023. Was an existing establishment who was operating parking when I took over. This is not something that I started. I didn't come over and start this business. I continued what was already present. Regarding for the old ownership, I can't speak on it. I can't speak on him not having the proper permits. I can't speak on him not following the city ordinance. I can only speak on myself. I took over in January and got granted a ticket in February and was told that I was supposed to go with the guidelines of the city ordinance. And I have been doing everything possible to comply. So today I'm making a presentation so you guys can go ahead and see what we're asking for, and it's not a lot. So I just want to go ahead and just talk about the improvements that we made just in this year, starting from January 2023. We painted the exterior of the building. We secured all the windows on the first floor. We fixed up the fence in the poor areas. We secured all the side doors by adding new locks. As Mike said, that there were homeless people roaming and entering through the windows, and it wasn't a safe environment. So we did everything in our power to fix up the property, not only on the outside, but on the inside, so for our guests to feel secure in our property. We cleaned the parking lot 3 times a week. The hotel initially only had 30 cameras. We added an additional 30 just to make sure our guests feel secure. We're adding new signage exclusively to Park and Fly, so other competitors so we can all fit in the same bracket. The security to the parking. We've updated all the lighting towers because they were all down. The whole parking lot would be dark at night. We added LED strips to the perimeter of the hotel to ensure safety for our guests late at night, so everyone has a clear view and ourselves have a clear view of the cameras at the lot at night. We have a 24-hour shuttle for our guests to have a ride directly to their vehicles. We have a night security guard, so to make rounds to prevent theft and damages to guest vehicles. This photo right here just shows the property before and after. We're genuinely here just to uplift this property and to help Romulus have a better name as well, because again, we're right across of a gas station. There's a lot of homeless people, and we take pride of our guests and how they come into the property. I don't want anyone to feel scared or feel like anyone's gonna hurt them. And it just felt like when I came in January, I was genuinely scared in the hotel. And I was scared on how am I supposed to uplift this property and make it a safe environment for everyone. So this is our lot currently, and this just reflects how many spaces we have. And these are the 30 spots that we would utilize for the long-term parking. 30 spots behind the hotel. This just reflects our camera system. We've added 30 extra cameras, so now we have a total of 62, just so we can actually have a clear view of everyone for safety reasons. So anyone who ever has a complaint or ever comes to us and be like, hey, can you just check the cameras, something happened to my car? We want to be able to help these guests. We want to be able for them to, if God forbid something happened, but we just are here for everyone to feel secure. The general manager and the owners have full access to the camera system on their phones. Camera view for 30, though that's the camera view for the 30 spots that we would initially have. And then this would the signage that we would provide for those 30 spots, so we don't have to, there shouldn't be a competition. And to address this point, I'm just continuing a business that was already existing. This is not something that I started. And unfortunately, the previous owner didn't do what was supposed to be done. So I'm just trying to comply and do what's asked of me to make sure we're doing everything that is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience care to speak on this? If not, we'll open it up to the board members for questions, comments. Anybody care to speak on this?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. President?
Through the chair to the petitioner. All the things that you listed are all hotel business-related concerns. That has nothing to do with the request for parking. And you mentioned nothing about the state-required parking tax for this use.
I think I can speak to that. We have the registration for the airport parking tax, which we'll leave a copy with you today. Also, we feel that the request is reasonable. It accommodates our tenants, our customers, and the additional revenue from the parking would be helpful at this point. The hotel is only about 30% occupied most of the time. They're struggling with the economy. Most businesses are these days. Again, it's an accommodation for our customers and an additional path of revenue for the small amount of spaces that we're requesting.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, question?
Mr. Lloyd.
For the petitioner. So how many parking spaces are available on the property?
Total, I think, 100.
So is allocating 30 spaces of the 100, does that allow you enough space to accommodate the hotel guests?
Yes.
That's it.
How are you going to control where these park and fly people park in the entire parking lot?
I think.
You show up a spot of 30 spaces.
Sure.
And back into the property.
I think Emmy can address, we have a system in place for parking.
So every guest who comes into the property gets a permit, regardless if they come and stay one night or 10 nights, if they have the vehicle on site. So every guest is accounted for, so we know who's coming into the lot. And then we have signage that will be posted for those 30 spots, and each spot will be numbered, 1 through 30. So, and then we'll have a number on the other side, so we know exactly who's in that spot.
Now, you made a note here about your lighting. Where you updated all the lighting towers to LED surrounding the entire lot? When was that done?
Probably like in end of May, beginning of June.
So it's just nothing specific to that park and fly area, it's just for the entire parking lot?
Correct, but the whole parking lot prior there were no proper lighting. So now the whole entire lot is clear, and I also showed on the previous slide how the camera view is, so now we have a better view of those 30 spots with the new lighting installed.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Has ever been any consideration, I know it just doesn't apply just to you, but with the electric vehicles that are becoming more common now, they just park any place? I don't know if that's across the board where they can just park alongside any car or anything like that. is there any kind of thoughts given to what kind of fire protection might be needed for electric vehicles that might just blow up in the spots that they're on? Because it's becoming more common every day on how many electric vehicles. I don't know if you could speak on that either. But that seems to be a concern, and I don't know if it'd be a concern for Park and Fly as well.
Yeah, I don't think
Kind
we've
of
thought
a
about it.
crazy question, I guess, but.
Sure, it's a good question. I don't think we've thought that through, and
Yeah.
probably going forward, something to consider, certainly.
And most of our parking spots, I personally, since my time there, haven't had an electrical car, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest. But I'm sure, of course, one of these days we will have an electric car. And of course, we will take the proper precautions, speak with the guests, let them know, like, hey, I know. And also, each guest that comes in signs a form that states that they are liable for, if we're not liable for any damages, but also if they cause any damages, they are liable, just to protect us and the guests.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Your request is for temporary use.
Correct.
If that was granted, that would be for no more than, what, 12 months?
1 year, yes.
What kind of plans do you have after 12 months? If this was granted, what's your future plans? It's just continue requesting extensions and stuff like that?
Sure, our preference would be to continue the program after
Yeah.
the initial 12-month period, yes.
But we would aim for the actual permit, not the temporary, just to be able to be in compliance with the ordinance.
I think, Carol, is there any future plans for some of the other hotels that might want to do this? To where
They're-
change some of the procedure, or just maybe change the rules to where they can just,
My understanding is that there are some out there that are doing it, they're working with enforcement. Some others that may want to do it that, would come in under this option and then do what Emmy's talking about with the special land use and make it a permanent use. So I don't know where any are in the hopper right now in terms of, we don't have anything submitted for a special land use at this point.
because there's quite a few other hotels that may be coming, requesting this in the future too.
They could, it depends on the pavement that's there, how much space is available. And she's correlating her occupancy right now, which I think you said is only at 30%.
About 30%
With
at any
the
given
available
time, yes.
spaces. That may change, and next time, and that's why this analysis didn't include anything on parking calculations and occupancies, because it is just a temporary use. We figured we'd watch it for a year and see what happens, and if occupancy goes up, and if there does appear to be a parking issue, that there's not enough spaces because occupancy's high, kind of good problem to have,
Yeah.
that your occupancy's higher and the spaces are needed, then you evaluate again. And that would be a part of a bigger analysis for a permanent use, certainly.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Morris?
You know, this is kind of interesting how this is all coming. I mean, a year or so ago, we weren't doing this at all. I mean, I think there was Park and Fly out there, but it wasn't controlled and whatever.
Right, COVID changed things, because
Yeah.
it really became,
Well,
pretty
you know.
prominent there. And like I said, I think the hotel's business has been down, so there's pavement on some of them, not on all of them.
Yeah.
But on some of them, there is excess pavement to be used, and,
But COVID changed it for everybody, you know, I mean.
Right.
It changed it
Right.
for the parking lots and things like that. And it's kind of interesting to me. You know, the problem that I see is, you know, I understand why they want to do it. All about making money and surviving, you know, as we say. But in the same token, you know, how do you really control it at the places, you know, like she says, they've got 35 or whatever. If they don't have a lot of people, and a whole bunch of people do that, they might end up with 50. And so we don't do anything, we don't control that. So, I don't know. I mean, like you said, it's kind of an interesting problem.
That's why the city attorney's been involved, and that's why the recommendation to look at these on a temporary basis right now, to let the hotels kind of put their stuff together for permanent uses. And again, they're not, some of them may not meet the criteria for a special land use for a permanent use. So it's sort of a time where you say control, having it under a temporary use, we have a lot of control because it's a temporary use. And, you know, there's conditions that I think Jeff has put on here on this one, and, you know, many of the improvements, you know, the security measures, the state tax, you know, which is very important, which they're registering for, you know, some of those kind of things. So,
Well, it just, I don't know, it just seems a little, you know, we're doing something that you can't really control. And I don't know.
what aspect of it do you think should be controlled?
Well, I'm just saying, you know, somebody, like the prior one that we get, you know, we gave approval for, the whole kind of premise was that they were going to,
I see.
you know, create, you know, another store or something. And that
I
didn't
see.
happen. And, you know, it just, like I said, I just don't, I'm not sure what we're looking for here.
That's,
And if we had you know, it might be different if we had a situation where there, you know, there was absolutely no parking anywhere
Right.
around. But that's not the case.
that is actually a component of the special land use, is getting into the market studies and the inventory and the demand. That's a huge component of that permanent use. So from that standpoint, yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, a question for the city planner. On page 2 of your planner's report,
It's a building report.
building report, sorry. You got me there.
I hope I can answer.
So on number 2D, business registration and permit, a hotel license has not been issued pending a park and fly variance request.
It's actually the park and fly is a temporary use request. It's not a variance, it's a temporary use. So the clerk's office issues the hotel or business, it's a business license. And I'm assuming, Ron, you may be waiting to get through this to make sure that then when they do issue it, it's complete. It's for hotel and park and fly or just hotel. So it could be just in processing that's why it needs to be done, but they haven't issued it yet pending the decision here.
Gotcha, because the way I perceive this is, if this doesn't happen, then they're not going to go for a hotel.
Oh, no, I think they would keep the hotel. They have to get the hotel. Did you guys apply for that?
Yeah,
You guys probably know
we've
more
done
than I do.
everything, and I spoke to Jeff, and I let him know, and he said everything has been updated.
Okay.
We just haven't received it, but we've done everything on our part.
Got it, good.
Jeff left us a message today, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're finishing up all their, and that way then they could get their license. They have to have their C of O. So
Gotcha.
that's probably what it's tied to. It's tied to the C of O and probably to this second temporary use being added on. But I bet, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, the
It's tied to
COO has
the
been
C of
completed.
O.
Apologize.
It seems, I guess I'll use the word concerning, that those two are tied together.
Well, to get
Because the
a
hotel is permanent business, and the parking would be temporary business.
temporary, right, it's a temporary permit. So, but this is just that the licenses are more for information purposes, for contacts, in case there's something that happens that the city needs to get a hold of the appropriate contacts. So, but my understanding is that's what I know a business registration is. But I'm guessing it is tying to the C of O. Do you know? Are they all tied? Is that what's tied together? That they don't issue the whole hotel license and business registration until? It's building part stuff. I don't. We'll find out. Is there a concern about it?
Well, it just seems like you're talking about a permanent business and a temporary business on the same piece of paper when it should be established as a hotel first, operating.
Right, right, and
then
that's what this
would be
is.
a totally secondary concern for variance requests.
Yeah, I'm not
It
sure
just
what-
seems like one's depending upon the other, and that's not the way
And
it
that's,
works.
and I think you're right.
That's not how I wanna see it or
This
hear
word
it.
pending that he's got in here, I'm actually thinking the pending is actually pending the C of O.
This should have nothing to do with occupancy of the hotel.
So,
Should
can't
have-
answer it.
have
I
nothing to do with
apologize.
it.
I apologize, I don't know, you know.
Mr. Chairman, so
Mr.
at what point, so these are temporary, that's what I'm saying, these are temporary. So are we going to end up giving these people different hotels and whatever, permanent, if they do certain things or something? I mean, is there something here that I'm missing?
There's, as Mr. Frederick says, there's occupancy there's two uses going on here. There's a hotel, which that is what the C of O will be issued for. They're close, if not ready, but then there's this temporary park and fly, where they're using part of that parking lot. They likely will have a temporary, I don't know I don't know the workings of the building department enough to know if they actually issue a temporary C of O on the parking, or if they just call it a temporary permit, a temporary park and fly permit.
It seems to me the hotel should be up and running as a hotel first and foremost.
As it is.
And they don't have a
That's the-
certificate of occupancy yet.
Right.
So
they're
we shouldn't
close.
even be here tonight talking about a secondary temporary use.
Actually, I think they may have it.
Yeah.
Yes,
I can
yes.
see there.
Yeah.
So it was approved for the temporary C of O. They had a few items which we have
Right, that
resolved.
they're finishing up. But Jeff did say that they will be getting their final, on the hotel.
So they're not open for business yet.
Oh, yeah, they're open.
With a
Yep,
temporary,
you've been open, right, under the temporary.
Yes, can I just clear up a few things?
Yeah.
Our C of O, there were a few pending items as of last week. We've completed all of them. I spoke to Jeff today, and I asked him to update this memo, so it was clear for you guys to understand that our C of O has been approved, not just a temporary, and our business has been operating. But yeah, our C of O is good, approved, and clear. I don't think this memo has been updated.
Where's that memo? What did you get? Oh, okay. I apologize. I don't have that memo.
this is just from Kayla, this is not from
What-
Jeff.
What's it?
it's just all the updates, all everything that.
It's from Jeff.
No, this
She
is
had
from-
Kayla did it.
So this,
I guess, what is it? I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Does it say anything about the C of O?
no,
Okay.
no, just all the improvements that were done to the hotel business that
Oh, okay.
were
That's all it
required
is.
anyways.
All right. So,
They're open. I would
Like I said
accept that
earlier,
CFO.
everything that was listed and everything that was mentioned has nothing to do with parking. It's all to have a
Exactly.
comfortable, safe, clean hotel that people want to stay at.
however, you would not be able to approve this use if there was if the C of O had not been finalized. And I think what the point they're making is it's on the verge of being finalized.
Well, I think anything to do with this subject matter should be after the word temporary is completely removed from C of O and it's a permanent.
Oh, right. No, the
Yes.
temporary, they're two separate uses. The temporary park and fly will not be included on a final C of O for a hotel. It's a separate use.
But it says approved for a temporary certificate of occupancy with a variance required for 30 spaces.
And this is not a variance. So
This is what, I'm just reading what it says.
I know, I apologize, I didn't write this.
No variance.
Because that seems to me like you say, it shouldn't be a rider on the certificate of occupancy. That's the primary business is hotel.
Well, that's a question for Jeff.
That kills it for me.
Okay, so. Must be conditioned. All right. Where are you seeing this, Jerry? What-
On page 2, 2D, this business
Right.
registration and permit, a
So
hotel
it's-
license has not been issued.
A hotel license has not been issued, right? That's something-
Pending park and fly variance request. It's like one is hinged
But
upon the
it's
other.
two separate sentences, so I'm not sure what that means. The
I don't
hotel
know
license
either.
has not been issued, that's just a fact. Then, new sentence, pending park and fly variance request, which, it's a temporary use request. So is he meaning, do you know? Did he talk to you about this? Is the hotel license pending the outcome of this approval?
That's what I'm afraid of.
They're different. The hotel license is not the certificate of occupancy.
Right, but to see that in the same sentence, the way I feel is
I know, we don't.
that pending, we got our certificate of occupancy, then this goes with it because it was already approved. That kills it for me, absolutely kills it. I'd like to see it operating hotel first, get all your ducks in a row,
And that
everybody's
is,
happy.
that is in a
and
way.
then-
That's existing now.
But it says hotel license has not been issued.
A
then it's-
hotel license is not a certificate of occupancy.
But you have to have a hotel license to operate a hotel.
But it's not a certificate of occupancy. It's a different.
Okay,
it's-
but
Right.
I don't feel parking, which is a secondary temporary use, should be attached to something that's a primary use. It just, like I said, it kills it for me. I hear shifty language all day long, and it drives me
Okay.
nuts.
Okay.
I don't know if it helps or not, but we have a message that Jeff...
I can only go by what I was presented with in my packet.
Sure, I understand.
But wouldn't that be an issue, not on our end? Because we presented all the correct documents. I'm not sure what the hiccup happened on the other end, but that wouldn't reflect our...
Oh, of course not. Definitely
Okay.
doesn't approve.
Okay, I apologize.
But I can only look at what I have.
I understand, but I do have a voicemail from Jeff that he left me this morning. If I'm-
Voicemail, I can't
Okay.
read, I don't,
I understand.
I can only go with what I see in front of
I
me, which
just
was
wanted to
presented
see
to
what
me
I
to
have.
review.
No problem, I understand, I apologize.
I'm texting him to see if we can get an answer.
Mr. Chairman, do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
Do you understand my point?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I have a comment. I have a concern about the possibility of next month we have another application from another hotel for Park and Fly. And then another month after that, another hotel comes. And I don't know how many other hotels have additional parking where they could support Park and Fly, but I have a concern for how many that we could possibly have in the next future. And if we keep granting Park and Fly temporary uses to these hotels, these independent airlines, such as airlines parking, will be put out of business. That's my concern, because they'll be competing with the hotels that have additional parking where they can designate that for Park and Fly, but they still have the hotel rooms that they can rent out for backup, where the independent Park and Fly lots don't have that. So we could conceivably put these others independent Park and Fly businesses right out of business. They don't have a backup. That's just my concern. Anybody want to comment on that?
I would, Mr. Chair, I would just say that we address Clarion's request independently, but also consider exactly what you said, right? I mean, that's not the first time that that point of view has been voiced by the committee or by, the audience. I think we just look at their request individually, but if that's consideration, absolutely.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
But it was still a concern
For sure.
for some of the other businesses in this community.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I
Mr. Morris.
guess my closing thing would be, I think we were talking about it on the last Park and Fly we had, that we just gave approval for. But again, they had a lot of land and whatever. But the one thing you can say about the parking lots is they're pretty secure. And I remember we kept talking about how secure those areas were for the hotels. And, you know,
Well, the security wasn't
and
the main
it's
concern,
just,
really.
you know, like I say, it's bad enough out there with everybody trying to steal converters and, you know, all that stuff. But anyway, this is just difficult for me because I just want some control here. And we don't seem to have any.
But I can sympathize with your efforts. You're trying to get
I do.
established with the fixing up the hotel and everything, and, but I still have other concerns. I know we granted the other hotel, Park and Fly, and that was supposedly temporary.
And then it wasn't. It still is.
And I'm sure that yours probably wouldn't be temporary either. Probably 12 months can go by real fast, and then you'll be back here for another. So I can sympathize with your request, believe me.
We understand the board's concerns, and of course, it's important for all of you to understand, that's not our primary business. The hotel is our primary business.
That's right.
We're looking for tenants, and we're looking to accommodate them in the best way that they
Yeah.
can. So when someone pulls up and we say, gee, you can stay here, however, you really can't park here. So why don't you go over there, take an Uber back here, and then get your car when you come back from Chicago. Does that make any sense at all? Because that's what we're suggesting here. And again, we're looking for a 12-month period
That's what they do.
where it's a trial, so to speak. And if the city's not happy with it, then you have an obvious choice of what you can do at that point in time.
Airline.
I think your situation is a little bit different than the previous one we were involved with. They had excess parking, a lot of extra parking spaces, and I could almost sympathize with what they wanted to do. You said you only have 100 parking spaces?
I think it's, 100.
It's roughly around 100. I don't know the exact number, but we have around 100, and,
Yeah, so many by,
It looks like.
but, yeah, my concern is to be able to accommodate guests as best as I can. Our hotel has been struggling, as you know. I know you said, oh, all your concerns just show what a hotel needs, but this hotel never had it. And we've done so much for the hotel, and we're finally making business again, why would we turn the guests away? And you mentioned, how are we going to control it? I received 2 tickets because I didn't have parking. And they both tickets told me to go to court, and I had to meet with the chief officer to explain, I just came into this business several months ago. I didn't even know this was an issue because I was just continuing what the previous owner had. I thought my knowledge when I came onto the property was, this is private property, you could do what you want. But of course, that was, very wrong. So I just explained, hey, I just took over a couple months ago. Whatever you need me to do, I will do it. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want any tickets. But whatever I have to do, whatever permits, whatever I have to pay, I want to comply with the city. So you guys have absolutely a lot of control because I received 2 tickets to go to court because of what the previous owner had done. So you have a lot of control in this situation.
Through the chair, if I could answer that. Part of being in business is doing your due diligence. You have to know all that going in. So that's not the city's fault. It falls on you because you became the landowner. And that, because it was previous, doesn't mean it was right. We've had similar situations in the city with other things I'm not going to get into, but that's not a good excuse.
Oh, no
I'm sorry.
excuse, absolutely not. And as
Well, that
soon
has
as I
nothing
was.
to do with this.
Absolutely, and as soon as I was addressed with the tickets, I went to myself to the police station, sat with the chief, and let him know my situation, and said, whatever I have to do, I am going to comply, no excuses. We weren't aware, and we sat with the old owners, and we said, hey, and we went through everything that we had to do. And I went to the city, and I let them know all of the information that I was doing and everything that was going on, and I met with Carol multiple times, and we sat down, and I have been very proactive in this situation. No excuses, absolutely not. I have been here, I have been present. I was in the city planner's office every other week. trying to navigate this issue. And I never, anything she presented in me with, we took it together. So no excuses at all. But when I was faced with the issue, I addressed the issue right away. So this was just answering his question, how are we supposed to control it? It has been controlled, absolutely. They have been issuing tickets. And the ticket isn't just a payment. You have to go to court for it. So, and I'm sure there's more to it after if you don't show up to court. It's not just a ticket and you move on from it. So as soon as I got the ticket, I addressed it right away. No excuses.
She is correct in terms of procedure. When she first came in, we were focusing on the special land use aspect of that. That's where my department was involved. When it switched and moved to the temporary use, which went concurrently, of course, with the city cert inspection and all the improvements they were doing, it shifted over to the building department. So the temporariness and that review is done in that department, where my department focuses on, again, what we're talking about, the future, which are these permanent special land uses. So that being said, back to Jeff's letter, which we're looking at the time that he put this together, he couldn't give a recommendation, but he was awaiting further discussion from the board, and the applicant at the meeting. And it definitely sounds like you guys have some questions that need to be answered. The one here that he's got in his items talking about how much the hotel requires, again, because we haven't, that would have been reviewed as part of a special land use application, the parking calculations and all of that, but I didn't do that exercise because it didn't come in under that type of application. We can certainly go back. It sounds like that's some of the information you want to know is, what's the hotel required to have? How many extra do they have? And then you factor in the 30% occupancy. But if your reason for granting the Sheraton, theirs was based on that amount of excess parking, if that's one of your things that you consider, we can get you that information on this case, in addition to these other questions that you have. So perhaps it might be best to postpone this to next month, so that Jeff can get us these answers. And
I'd like some clarification maybe from our attorney if we're obligated to look at things like this.
okay.
Like I said, it just,
Well, so in memory serves, the Sheraton deal was temporary until they found something to put on that piece of property,
right.
pending. So if you're granted 30 spaces, are you going to one day put a burger shack back there or something? It's always going to be your parking lot still. Whereas the Sheraton wants to take that property and parking spots and actually put building on it. That's why the temporary use was.
That was our thought.
That was our thought.
That was our thought.
Because they said that they were going to build on that property.
Where theirs would be going.
It'd still be parking lot.
That special land use, and there are conditions, that are associated with the special land
Right.
use.
It's just, it's
permanent
not the same thing is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
It's two different
Yep, yep.
situations.
No, I thought I heard you said something about the extra space, the amount of extra space. So, and then the future use, so.
So one comment, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lloyd.
I do think they're more similar than maybe we are making them, because ultimately, the prior hotel and this hotel, again, their primary business is a hotel. So they want to use that space for residents, right? For guests. Until that occupancy is met, they're trying to find other ways to make money. In that regard, I see this as really no different. I mean, as the petitioner stated, what she really wants to happen is have 100 guests
Yeah.
in those spots. Until that happens, like the Sheraton, she's trying to find other ways to use the property. So whether they have a theoretical temporary or permanent solution at the Sheraton, or they want to fill it up with guests, I see it as a very similar problem. You're trying to fill up that space with revenue-generating income until your guests return. To your other points of when will that happen, I mean, that's a valid point across the board, right? But I do view these as being very similar.
I have a question. When did you open up your doors for occupants to come in to stay at your hotel? When was the when did you
January
just-
20th.
Of this year,
When was it?
January 20th, 2023.
23.
January.
Oh, okay, I thought it was just recently.
10 months, roughly 10 months.
All right, but that answers my question, my thought. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Well,
Mr. Jones?
Now, did the previous owner, they didn't have temporary parking, right?
No, not
So
to
this
my
is just
knowledge.
something,
They didn't have approval for it.
Approval
They had
for
it.
it.
It
But they-
was,
but it wasn't right, so.
it was, right. It was not approved.
They had temporary, it just wasn't enforced as
It
far as.
wasn't enforced, yeah.
This looks a lot better.
And they've been operating this business for years, because we would have guests come in and say, hey, do I have to go park somewhere else? Because that's what I used to do. And then I'll be like, no, because we got the temporary, well, we didn't get the temporary, but we got approval from City Hall, a city planner, and they would let me know that, oh, like, the old owner let us park here and let us park there. So it was just a lot of,
No,
there was a lot.
That's actually not correct. I don't think we ever told you you could do it, are you saying the people were there previously that told they couldn't do it?
Yeah, exactly. They were told they couldn't do it, and they would continue to do it. So what I'm saying is, they would always come in and be like, hey, we would park our car here, are we able to continue doing that? So that's what I'm saying. So so many people would come in and tell us that, and we
Yep.
would be confused because it's like we didn't have the approval and we kept getting tickets.
Right, and I don't think anybody at the city told you that you could continue.
I'm
You
saying-
were-
I'm
yeah,
saying the
it's
old
en-
owner.
enforcement. Yep, the old owner, right.
They're gone.
I have a question. What's your percentage of occupancy for the last 10 months?
It's been between 20 and 35%, at the best 35%. We're still struggling with COVID times, and hopefully that improves to some point, but even if we had 60 or 70% occupancy, we'd probably only be using around 50 or 60 spaces, so we'd still have excess of around 45 or 55 spaces that would be available. And again, important to note, without being redundant, just an accommodation for our customers, so we don't say, hey, go over to this airline's parking, go Uber back here, sorry, you can't keep your car here.
That's what they do.
I'm not sure that makes any sense for us.
Oh, thank you. Is there any possibility we could find out how many other potential hotels would have excess parking that might be a possibility to come in for a temporary use request? How could we find that out? What we may have to look forward to?
I can pass that on to Jeff and see what we can find.
We need to postpone.
Anybody, any questions?
Mr. Jones
So
suggests
with the
Mr.
information we
Jones.
keep asking about, the possible postponement until we get this information. So we can,
Well, it probably isn't going to make that much difference right now, because I think the potential is there. It's just a matter of how many might be coming in the future, in my opinion.
I think you had a good suggestion, I forget, Mr. Morris, it might have been you that said it, is having the attorney input. I don't know what's been going on in those discussions with regard to any ordinance changes, any, again, I get involved on the permanent ones when I see
Yeah.
you at Planning Commission, Jerry, so, but we'll do some more investigating and find out these answers for you.
No, I guess my feeling is if this was the only other large hotel with excess parking, and some of the other hotels didn't have any excess parking, so they wouldn't have a need for air park and fly, it'd be easier to make a decision, I think.
I don't know if that can, that's why I think it's important to have the attorney involved. I don't know where that component of the decision
Yeah.
comes in. So, I mean, we're dealing, on the planning side of thing, the development side of thing, we're dealing with some uses that are all the same. I get calls every day for used car dealerships, and we're not looking at how many others are out there and making decisions. I mean, if a use is allowed and it complies with the ordinance, then and that's where we'll have to defer to the attorney in terms of where this competition aspect comes into play with your decisions. That's something I can't answer.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, like I say, talking about attorneys, is if we, where do we stand legally when we don't want to give a hotel an okay to make money? You know,
Well, that's a great
I mean,
question that we'll
I
have to
mean,
ask.
what's our standing? Maybe we should postpone this and get an,
I think
get
you
an
should.
opinion.
I think we
And
should
then
postpone
we, at
it.
least we know, and then, you know, as you were saying, if we can do that, then we, you know, if we decide we don't want to park at the hotels, then we can say to them, you can't do this, but let's find out.
I'd like to know what the potential is of others. If
Why-
they might come in for park and fly, and every hotel in the community is going to have park and fly. I don't know. I guess I'd like to do a little,
I move we postpone this.
I second.
all right.
Clarion Park and Fly.
Pending input from
2023.
the
Yeah, I
city
think we do a
attorney.
little more information, do a little survey. And
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't want to do something that,
Yeah.
you know, would be illegal. I mean, you know, like I said, I just don't know. I'd like an opinion, because,
I think it's a matter of just making a fair, proper decision. And I don't think we have enough
I just don't know.
knowledge right now to back us up.
So,
All right, you have a motion, Mr. Morris, supported by Mr. Frederick, to postpone what, for how long? Postpone this?
for a month.
A decision
or-
for at least a
or
month?
I'll just leave it up to
Perhaps say
them.
indefinitely until we can get the
Leave it
information.
up to the building
Indefinitely, yeah.
department, or, you know.
We're
planning
going to
department.
postpone this, sir, and
Yep.
we'll take a roll call votes first. Mr. Morris,
Yes,
Mr. Frederick,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. We're going to postpone it for a while anyway, indefinitely, get a little more background information and kind of feel more comfortable about whatever decision we make.
Thank you.
decision we have to make a long time.
Let's see where we're at here. Next item on the agenda is BZA-2023-015 for Melvin Malmer Fence. The location is 34900 McBride. The parcel ID is 80062-99-0002-002. And the request is for a variance from section 3.05A1 for fences and meeting the location and height of the zoning ordinance to erect a 9-foot wood privacy fence where only a 6-foot high is permitted. And the project is a privacy fence. And the petitioner is Melvin Malmer, am I pronouncing that?
Malmer, yes, sir.
Melvin Malmer?
Yes, sir.
All right, tell us about your project.
Okay, Mr. Chairman and the
I
board.
think we pretty well got a good notice of what you want.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and present my variance request. My property, which is 35900 McBride Street, sits right adjacent, back up to the Michelle Apartments. The Michelle Apartments parking lot is 3 feet higher than my backyard. So if I put up a 6-foot fence, that's only going to cover 3 foot of their parking lot. To put a 9-foot fence up, it would block off their entire parking lot It would go across in my entire backyard, 60 feet up on the side to where the property line marker is, before it breaks out, goes out to Wayne Road. I just want to close in that back part with the 9-foot fence and up the side, 60 feet, because I have 2 grandchildren, a dog, and 12 nieces and nephews, all under the age of 5. And barbecues, they come over to Uncle Mill and Aunt Brenda's house because we got the big backyard. And just wanted to make sure that it was closed in, that I didn't have to worry about the people from Michelle Apartments. There's been some weird activity going on in that parking lot. You know, called the police a few times, they came by. And just be for more privacy and to be more comfortable in my own backyard, I'm asking that I could have a 9-foot fence that would block everything off instead of just a 6-foot fence, which still lets me see everything in the Michelle Apartments. And that's basically what my variance is.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Got pictures here?
We had notices of this public hearing sent out first-class mail, and we have an affidavit on file. And at this point in time, we'll close that portion for the public hearing and open it up for property owners or anybody like care to speak on this petition. If there's nobody care to speak on it, we'll open it up to the board members for questions and comments. Yep, you want to come back up to? Oh,
I'm Abbas Dulani, the owner of the
You speak
piece of
into
land.
yeah, speak into the mic.
Okay, my name is Abbas Dulani. I'm the owner of the piece of land right in front to Mr. Melville property. I was wondering if he's put in the 9-foot fence just to make sure in a survey or something accurate from the city in a dimension, because that piece of land, we used to survey all the time with cutting grass and stuff, and we ended up like just knowing it's part of his property. So if he's covering that area with a private fence, just making sure for future problems later on if we're doing anything in there, just to make sure the dimensions and the measurements are right in a private fence. That's all.
City.
All right, thank you. Was there anybody else?
No, that's all.
Anybody else want to speak? Mr. Muller, you want to come up? I've been by your place. I see you've already got the fence up.
Partially, yes.
When did you find out that wasn't proper? When you went and got the permit?
No, and that was my fault. I came home from work one day, I had a notice on my door that said, stop, desist, doing everything that you was doing. Come to find out that, one, I had the fence up backwards. I got the pretty side, as they call it, towards my house. So I just stopped, got everything leaned up against where it's at until I had this done and see if I can put it up 9 feet, and then I'll just take it down and put it up the right way.
In your note here that pointed to the board, you said you witnessed multiple drug transactions?
What I would say were
And
drug transactions.
People
yes.
sitting in the parking lot? Has there been any arrests made, or
No, there haven't been
Anything like that?
any arrests
no
made,
police reports?
just other than me calling the police and say something's going on over in the parking lot. I mean, I can't say, oh yeah, I definitely saw them selling drugs, but when one car pulls up and another car pulls up and they're standing one of them gets out the car and standing at the other car, and then they get back in the car and both of them leave. You know, you don't have to be a rocket science.
Was there ever any complaints to the landlord or the owner of the apartments?
Yes, we've called Michelle Apartments, well, my wife has called Michelle Apartments several
Did they
times.
have any excuses for no blockage of the headlights and stuff like that?
No, I mean, only thing that would block the headlights would be the fence. I have a few bushes, trees back there, but until I get the fence up, that's what would block the headlights.
Isn't that kind of a requirement anymore to have some sort of around the parking lots to block the headlights?
Certainly on new ones.
I'm sorry?
Certainly on new developments.
New one, not the old one.
Well,
When
I
you-
know
when you
that,
abut-
yeah,
when you
but
abut
if it's
residential, yes.
the new ones would have to have some sort of
If it's abutting
landscaping or
residential.
something.
Yep.
Has that
abutting
ever been
residential.
proposed, maybe some landscaping rather than a fence?
No,
Well, it'd be some pretty tall landscaping.
I mean, to put up a little, not a little, but a wood privacy fence, roughly it'd be about $3,000. To plant bushes, you're looking at more like $10,000 all the way
Now,
across that
you say
backyard.
their parking lot is 3 feet higher than your property?
Yes, sir.
So why do you need a 9-foot privacy fence?
Because 6-foot fence from my property would only go 3 foot above the parking lot. So that's like,
Yeah,
parking lot, the car lights would be here, my fence would be like right here.
Yeah.
If I did a 9-foot fence from my property,
Yeah.
that would just be 6 feet from their parking lot, and that would cover all the top of their cars.
any questions from the board members?
So, Mr. Chairman, so.
Mr. Morris.
Maybe I could ask, if we give them the okay, the city has to approve the fence.
Well, they'll have to inspect it, yeah.
And
It has to be
and where-
inspected.
And where it goes,
As a matter of fact, was there any kind of inspection on the post holes?
Just when I talked to, I don't know who it was, I talked to somebody, and he said he came by, he drove by, he seen that it was backwards. He said, it's far enough on your property, that shouldn't be a problem, 'cause I got like 3 foot up from the property line. He said, you just got it backwards? He said, how far did you dig the holes? I said, I dug the holes 48 inches. He said, okay, that's good.
okay.
Did you also know that the good side of that fence is supposed to face the neighbor?
Yeah, that's what he said. That's why I said the pretty side was, I was looking at the pretty side. He said I had to turn it around.
So, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lloyd?
so just to note, if we were to vote to approve, it would be per the conditions as identified by Jeff, the Director of the Building and Zoning Commission, that says the permits will have, all the proper permits would have to be received. And the second condition is the fence shall be constructed in a way that is aesthetically appealing to those who view it. So to address your question.
Right, right. Yep.
It's, through the chair, it's sort of an optical illusion depending on which side of the fence you're on. From the apartments, it looked like a 6-foot fence.
Right, it would. It would be a 6-foot fence from the apartments, but from my house, it'd be a 9-foot fence.
Whatever.
That's a very interesting situation.
If the apartment put a 6-foot fence up,
He'd be gold.
it would be basically the same thing, but just on the apartment's land.
Yes.
Right.
So 3.
And it would be 9 foot to the top of the fence from his
his
property
Right.
because of the grade height.
It's a very interesting situation.
When I put my privacy fence up, I had to have it inspected, the holes inspected, and the reason for that is to make sure the posts are solid. A 6-foot fence can be blown over very easy. A 9-foot fence needs a real good base.
And when I put it up, I had a few of the panels up, and we did have a couple storms. A couple of the panels got knocked down. That's why you said you've been past it. You see how there's, some of them are up, some of them are down. Because I stopped, and I said, okay, I need to do this the right way.
So you're going to turn that fence around the good side to the neighbors?
Yes.
So,
That's a job.
through the chair, to answer the gentleman's question, do you have a survey of your plot?
Yes, we do.
Because, and you're installing the fence yourself?
Yes.
Okay. I don't, like if and this is just a thought up there, but like if it was professionally installed, which that's not what we're talking about, the installers are responsible for the placement. Like if it's, let's say you paid somebody to put the fence up and they were 2 feet over the line, they're responsible for where it ended up.
Yeah,
not the landowner.
If,
It's just a point here, I'm trying to.
right, if there's a survey and they do that, yeah, they would be responsible. I think his property, there's actually a actual cyclone fence, am I correct?
Right.
And then your fence is actually
Inside of
a
that.
couple feet into his own yard.
Okay. I just want to answer the concern of the gentleman who spoke.
Yeah.
And on Abe's question, when I say come up 60 feet on the side, there's a marker there that shows where my property goes, it turns out towards Wayne Road. I put a chicken wire fence there going down there because everybody was cutting from the gas station across that to walk down the road. I didn't want people walking on my yard. I found out it's my yard. So I put a chicken wire fence up. And I know that's what he's talking about. I got the chicken wire fence up, going down towards Rain Road. It'll be 2 years Saturday that we bought the house. Since then, I've been cutting that, he was cutting all that before. I've been cutting that because I talked with myself, come to find out, this is my property over here. So we've been cutting that and everything. And once we get the back part fenced up, then I'll probably stand for you again, put like a ranch-style fence around that other part of the property going out towards Wayne Road and the front. But the back, I'm just trying to get that 9 foot up.
You want a motion?
If no other questions or comments, I think a motion's in order.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve BZA 2023-015 Melvin Marmer fence with being, and he has to, and give him a 9-foot fence where a 6-foot fence is permitted. And then he also has to get, permits must be received from the building department and all inspections must be approved. The fence shall be constructed in a way that's aesthetically appealing to those in view of it, including being straight and maintained over time.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Frederick, to approve the request for a variance from section 3.05 for location and height of the zoning ordinance to erect a 9-foot wood privacy fence where only a 6-foot high is permitted. And it has to apply pertaining to the getting all the permits and inspections done. Any questions on the motion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Your request has been approved.
Thank you.
Good luck on
Be
your project.
careful putting that fence up.
Will do.
Make it look nice.
All right, next item on the agenda is BZA-2023-016 for Romulus Self-Storage. The location is at 37270 North Line Road. The parcel ID is 8007999-0019-703. And the request is for variances from the zoning ordinance as follows. The first one is a variance from section 13.03B3 for fences and screening walls to allow a fence in the front yard setbacks on the north and south sides of the property. And number 2 is a variance from section 14.02A3B for off-street parking facility design to allow pavement for circulation in the North Line Road front yard setback. The project is development of a self-storage facility. The petitioner is Mark D. Roberts, Romulus Self-Storage owner. Would Mr. Roberts come forward and tell us about your project?
I'd like to have my representative with Kate Bond with Midwestern Consultants speak for me on my behalf.
Please
if that's
speak into the
Speak
mic
into
as
the
best
mic.
you can.
We can't
Sorry
hear
about
very
that.
well.
I'm Mark Roberts. I'd like to have our representative Kate Bond with Midwestern Consultants speak on our behalf, if that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on the agenda this evening. I'm Kate Bond. Would you like me to go through the presentation now, or would you like to wait until after the?
Go through the presentation now.
Sure.
Chief Allison.
So, as you mentioned, we are here this evening for two variances. There we go. Two variances for this project, self-storage facility that we have been working with Carol's team, the ARC committee, for quite some time to develop the site plans and move through the project entitlement process. And we didn't start out with two variances. They sort of came about as we progressed through the review and revision process. The site plans that we put together evolved quite a bit over time. We went through a process of identifying the type of layout that would be most suitable for this property. And as we went through the design development, and we got down to the very nitty-gritty components of the design, and that's when the variances came about. So I'd like to go through identifying some of the constraints of the property and how we worked with it. And then found ourselves in front of the Planning Commission in July, just a couple months ago, and received site plan approval. So we found ourselves in a position where apparently we did a lot of things right. And now we're here before you this evening in order to get these last couple of things taken care of in order so that we can proceed forward. The property that you see in front of you is an interesting parcel. It's zoned properly for the use that was proposed, a self-storage facility. It is an industrial zone property. The unique components of it start out with this picture right in front of you in that it's a double frontage lot. It fronts on 275 and it fronts on North Line Road. Most of the properties along North Line Road, all entering off of North Line Road, are generally industrial. As they start out from sort of the northwest and head east, they're pie-shaped lots and get wider as they head to the east. This one in particular is a very narrow parcel. It has a lot of trees on it. It has wetland on it. It is rather flat, but it is rather low, 30 feet low compared to I-275. It will be accessed from North Line Road, as I mentioned. And so when we got around to the layout of the development and working with the ordinance, the layout was we worked with the requirements. The buildings are running so that they are lengthwise or perpendicular to the roads rather than running parallel to the roads in order to be able to screen much of the doors as the ordinance requires. Because the low area of the site is in the far corner near 275, and that's where the minor topography that we have on the site is draining to. Our detention basin was really required to be back in that area. Because of that, we started to lay out everything around it. The building started to take shape, the aisles between, the drive aisles between, and the driveway was located based on access management requirements to make sure that we were in the right location with the driveways on either side of it and across from it. So we really went about meeting all the ordinance requirements. You can see a lot of what I'm going to call proposed landscaping based on the little circles on the plan here. There's a lot of landscaping, meeting the buffer requirements for North Line Road, the use of existing vegetation in the back for the buffer requirements for 275. But as we moved through, we found that because of the location of the detention basin, some waivers were going to be required. But we found that they were supported by the reviewing agents. For instance, the detention basin in a front setback, it's in the front setback of 275. That required a waiver. It was supported by OHM, and then it was approved by the Planning Commission. Some of those things I bring up now because they sort of set up where we are today in front of you for a variance for a fence within the front setback. So just to get you acclimated to what the layout looks like, we think it's a pretty good layout considering it's a really well-done building design. We took careful consideration about if there's anything visible from North Line Road, we want to make sure that it looks good. The only thing visible after all the screening requirements are taken care of is the office portion of the development, which is shown here in this image. So what we came up with and what was approved in July at the Planning Commission was a lot of hard work between our design team, the applicants, and working with the review, Carol's team, and everybody at the city. We met all the site requirements, the landscape screening. We have adequate fire access. Circulation is good at this point. We really worked hard to get there. All of the waivers that we needed in order to get to where we are today, they were approved by the Planning Commission. What we have left, this is basically the same presentation I used, the same drawings that I used for the Planning Commission in July. And so I've kind of taken off what we've achieved and left forward in darker what we have to talk about today, which are the variances. And I started talking about the detention back in the corner there. When the waiver for the detention in a front setback was approved, what goes along with that is a requirement. The detention has to be fenced. When we are approved and allowed to have the detention basin in the front setback, fencing is required to be around the detention basin. But what that does is requires to have the fencing in the front setback. One of the variances is for fencing within the front setback of 275. That is in this drawing, this red line up in the top part of the drawing is the area that is closest or the shortest distance between the fencing and the edge of the property. It is in a position where from 275 it can't even be seen, and I'm going to show you some graphics about that later. I'm going to jump forward to the front part on North Line Road where we have to have variances for two different things, a fence in a front setback and the drive aisle in the front setback. As you're well aware, for this particular use, the self-storage, the basic front setback of 40 feet in the industrial district is required to be 60 feet. So we are additionally set back for this use, which you'll see all the buildings are set back at the 60-foot required setback line. In this particular case, the fence line and what amounts to, for the drive aisle, just curb, for 2 feet of curb, is what is sitting in this front setback. For all intents and purposes, the basic front setback for the industrial zoning district at 40 feet, neither of these are within that 40-foot setback. I'm going to jump forward to some graphics so you can see what that means from the perspective of North Line Road and I-275. I mentioned that on 275 there is a very drastic vertical change along that road to the property. It's approximately 34 feet. When we talk about fencing within the front setback and the ordinance and the intent, I don't want to put a lot of thoughts or words into the intent behind that. Carol did explain in the criteria what the intent of some of these ordinances are. And I believe we have met that intent of that with the fence for blocked by screening. So it's not anything that is visible from either 275 or, as you can see in the cross-section below, from North Line Road. Because of the screening that's required along North Line Road, including a berm that is required, and the elevations, the existing elevations on the site, North Line Road, that's the existing elevation shown from the perspective of the car. The proposed elevation of the proposed buildings is over here on the left-hand side. The yellow area is basically showing what a driver would see. And from North Line Road, they will not be able to see past the proposed screening. So the fence is hardly visible, the proposed fence that we're showing or proposing. From 275, it's even less visible because it's, one, so far away, two, so far below the elevation of 275. So that graphic helps to explain that. Here's a perspective view that we provided to help the Planning Commission understand what it was that we were proposing. What you see is the perspective of someone on 275, but this is a snapshot in time. The perspective that a driver would see, the speed at which people are going on 275, all taken into consideration mean that something at 6 feet tall is likely not to be seen in great detail, particularly with the existing vegetation on the slope going down to the property, and in addition, the proposed trees that we have on the property for mitigation for tree removal. You can see here, obviously, an artist representation, but we believe this is going to be a very neat and orderly development, and hope that it looks very much like what you see here in this picture. This is a graphic explaining what it is we're actually asking for along North Line Road. These are short sections that don't go all the way across the entire property. They're in the front. We have both the aisleway that I have placed red over. It's just the curb line that's going to be within the front setback. So it's a 2-foot width of curb, and it's for a short, extensive, not along the entire frontage, it's just for segments. And then the fence line is also highlighted in red, where we are also in the front setback, only for short periods of segments. And then if we are not, as one of the intents of not allowing for fencing within the front setback, to allow for adequate drive access or stacking distance within a driveway like this. I just wanted to point out that the access drive is actually just over 175 feet, much more than if we had fencing at the 60-foot setback, because we don't have any fencing across the entrance. Here's another artist illustration of what's happening along North Line. It's actually from the perspective from somebody on the sidewalk. This is the proposed vegetation and the berm along there that is required as part of the landscape screening. The fence really should not be visible once all that vegetation is provided. In addition, we have been asked numerous times to provide in the site plans as part of our approval that if after construction the fencing is still visible, that additional landscaping would be required. And we have provided that in the site plans that were approved in July by the Planning Commission. In addition to the fence not being visible, you can't even see the drive aisle or the curb, which is far below what can be seen on North Line Road. So in a nutshell, big nutshell, I just wanted to indicate how diligently we've worked with everybody at the city to get where we are today. We are anxious to keep moving forward and get this really great project up and running and start our engineering plans. We feel like everything, all the criteria necessary to achieve the variances has been satisfied. We can answer affirmatively most of those, not all of those questions that are required in order to satisfy the variance requests. And we're all available if you have any questions.
Well, thank you. It's a nice presentation, believe me. At this point, we close that portion, and I think notifications of the public hearing have been sent out first-class mail to
They have.
property owners. And we'll close that portion and open it up for anybody in the audience who would care to speak on the project. Nobody? Okay, then we'll open it up to the board members for questions and comments. Oh, I have one. I made a note here about the the fire lanes for the emergency vehicles around buildings. Was it 7 and 4? Has that already been taken care of?
Yes, it has.
Okay. I just made a note of it, and I just thought I'd bring it up, because I need something to say.
Looks like a nice project.
Through the chair.
Mr. Frederick?
Through the chair, input from the planning commission. They worked very diligently, great presentation.
Thank you.
They worked very diligently to come up with a plan that parcel. The word front setback is, it's actually the backyard to the freeway, which is the front yard to the freeway, which is
Oh, yeah.
34 feet in the air. It seems like the wrong word to use, but it's not, because we do ask for other, when it's level ground with the freeway, that they have nice
Oh, yeah.
front yard setback. This just, it fit everything the planning commission was looking for and asking for. Fire department was happy.
Yeah.
Just questions were answered. You notice there's no dumpster on site, because dumpsters on site invite problems, not counter problems.
Oh, yeah.
People come there and dump. Like, they got a place, they think, just because they got a storage unit, they think they can
Yeah.
bring everything they've ever had. And that was explained to us very, very well, why there's no dumpster at the location.
I noticed that, too.
So,
Makes a lot of sense.
Right by my property, I'm gonna have to go farther down the road and dump my stuff.
I was happy to see that something being done with that property there. I thought it's going to sit like that forever. It's a good project.
Used to be farmland.
Yeah, that's right. I grew up about half a mile from there. I guess at this point in time, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair, sorry. Motion to approve BZA 2023-016 Romulus Self-Storage, variance, section 13.03B3, fencing and screening walls, and also variance, section 14.02, A3B, off-street parking facility design, pending the 4 recommendations by the city planner.
Support?
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Lloyd, seconded by Mr. Morris, to approve the 2 variance requests for BZA 2023-016 for Romulus Self-Storage. The approval is for the variance for the 13.03 for fences and screening walls, to allow a fence in the front yard setbacks on the north and south sides of the property, and a variance from section 14.02 for off-street parking facility designed to allow pavement for circulation in the North Line Road front yard setback. And the motion is to approve that. Any discussion on the motion? If not, take a roll call vote. Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you very
Your variance
much.
requests have been approved, and looking forward to see your project done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D on the agenda is BZA-2023-017. It's Joe Orem billboard for Smith Road. The location is 28265 Smith Road. Parcel ID is 80-048-99-0004-701. And the request is a variance from Chapter 48 for signs, Section 48-7. Specific requirements by type of sign to allow a 70-foot-high V-shaped billboard where only 45 feet high is allowed. The project is a V-shaped billboard. Petitioner is Joe Orem, Vice President of Commercial Realty. Mr. Orem?
I am not Mr. Orem. He is here, along with members of his team.
Oh, okay.
My name is John Nampman. I'm representing Mr. Orem for this here.
All right.
And with the ZBA's kind permission, the arguments I have are actually similar on both item D and item E, the Northline address billboard. So I'd like to talk about both of them at once in the interest of time. Both of these are very similar. We have a billboard. There's currently a 45-foot height to it. Actually, there were 3 billboards. Mr. Orem has been a long-time good corporate citizen in Romulus and, in fact, around southeast Michigan. He took down 2 of the billboards in that immediate area already and wants to raise this to a 70-foot billboard. There are trees between this site where the billboard is and the freeway. And the trees are getting to the point where they're obstructing the site. You can't see the billboard as well. We're not asking for anything special. We're not actually asking for anything that hasn't been granted by the ZBA for other billboards right in the same area. They've all been comparably 60 to 70 feet. We're not asking for any bigger than has already been approved. It should be comparatively simple. Your planning professionals have done a very thorough analysis of this matter and recommended approval of the request. And so I think, frankly, that if I kept talking, I might talk you out of it. So I'll instead take any questions. If they're too technical, there's people here who can answer them.
Mr. Chair, do I have a question?
Mr. White?
So you said 70 feet, right?
70 feet high is what we're requesting, yes.
Has there been an assessment or approval by the FAA being so close to the?
Not yet. That's something that we would plan to do after approval if required. The Smith site is obviously more in the flight path of the airplanes, and if it's required, we'll do it.
All right. Close that portion. And notifications have been sent out on this variance request too,
Yes.
and the public hearing.
So, yes, and keeping in mind there's 2, but I think you said you kind of presented both of them, right?
I was talking about both of them, yes.
Okay, so he was talking about both of them, and it sounds like, the reasons are the same, but just make sure that we keep them, keep them separate. So if you have specific questions on one site versus another.
Yeah, we were going to do the first one first.
Yep, good.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody care to speak on this in the audience? If not, we'll open it up to board members for questions or comments. Mr. Frederick?
Through the chair. Are these, of course, the signs will be lit, right? Are they LED?
That's certainly been the trend in the industry,
That's been one, yeah.
and I believe that is the plan. This certainly would be a site that lends itself to LED billboards. I mean, the traffic volume, the freeway,
Absolutely.
every other billboard just about that goes up on the freeway is LED billboards now.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I've been told that the Smith location, they're not planning a digital billboard.
Okay. What was that? Say that again?
The Smith Road location is not going to be digital, but static.
Oh,
It won't be LED, it'll just be a static sign with lights.
Yeah, just the old style billboard.
That's fine.
you don't do the wallpaper type anymore?
That's what they're talking about, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Can you
Vinyl.
to the microphone
Vinyl.
when you talk? 'Cause it doesn't.
I'm going back a few years.
I don't understand how old he is.
but, you know, that could be converted at a later date.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that all depends on market.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that was good. Any other questions or comments? If not, motion's in order.
Through the chair, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that we approve BZA-2023-017 Joe Orem Billboard on Smith Road, located 28265 Smith, parcel 80-048-99-0004-701, for the variance of, for 70-foot high V-shaped billboard where only 45-foot is allowed.
Support.
Can I make an amendment to the motion?
Did you want to?
Yeah. I want to make an amendment to the motion if possible. I want to make sure that the considerations, the recommendations are followed, particularly the one that says we should require written approval from the FAA for the Smith Road billboard. And then there's also a second recommendation that says the permit and inspections completed by the building permit. I want to make sure that those are a part of the consideration.
Yep, I'll add that.
Has there been
Make it part
a
of the
written,
motion.
Yep, recommendations
Just make it part of the motion.
of the written approval from FAA, and number 2, permits and inspections are as required by building department. Add that.
Okay.
Thank you.
has there been
All right.
written approval by the FAA?
Not from the FAA yet. As I said, we would apply for
Oh, yeah.
that after the zoning.
But that, you're going to get
variance.
it. Yeah.
But we will obviously have to get that.
Don't want no airplanes hitting that sign.
No, then we'd have to replace it, and that gets to be expensive.
They're not that low.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Jones, to approve the motion for the request for BZA 2023-017 for Joe Orem billboard on Smith Road. The variance is for Chapter 48, Signs, Section 48-7, specific requirements by type of sign to allow a 70-foot high V-shaped billboard where only 45-foot high is allowed. And that motion is for approval. Any other questions on the motion? Or if not, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes,
Chair votes yes. Motion for that has been approved for that sign.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next one, for BZA-2023-018 for Joe Orem billboard for North Line Road. And the location for that one is 36321 North Line. The parcel ID is 80113-99-0010-700. And the request is a variance from Chapter 48 for signs, Section 48-7, specific requirements by type of sign to allow a 70-foot high V-shaped billboard where only 48-foot is allowed. The project is a V-shaped billboard, and the petitioner is Joe Orem, Vice President of Commercial Reality. Want to tell us about this one, too?
You know, I already said a lot. You're asking a lawyer to keep talking.
Pretty basic, I think, isn't it? Pretty close to the last one.
It is essentially, but I will tell you, I don't, and I might be mistaken, but I don't think, because this one is not in the flight path as much, I don't think there was a requirement for FAA approval on this one, unless I'm mistaken.
There is.
There is?
Anything
Okay,
around here is FAA.
I stand corrected. But other than that, this is obviously on North Line, same situation, 3 billboards, now there's 1 that we're talking about, 70-foot trees, same things that I said before, you can just pretend I said them again.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you. And we'll follow the same procedure for this one. Close that portion and open it up to the public for, and there were mailings for this one too, weren't they? For the nearby
Yes, there
property
were.
owners? If there was, there is some there, I guess.
There's somebody talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Standing up.
My name is Leanne Makins. I am representing MBM Fabricators. We are the property owner of 36321 North Line Road, which is just a vacant land. Our main facility is 36333 North Line Road. This easement is on our 36321 property. Our concerns would just be to make sure that it does follow the perpetual easement agreement, which states that the sign structure does not exceed the size of the structure it replaced. So therefore, the previous sign to this sign is the same. Obviously, if you go with a larger billboard sign in the air, generally speaking, the footprint must also be larger. The access point to this property is through our main entrance off of 36333 North Line Road, which at that point we have double gated entrance to the facility. So they would have to actually access our property to go back onto that, which they have thus far. So therefore, our concern is just to making sure that the footprint doesn't get larger, because again, part of the perpetual easement agreement states that it needs to be the same size.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And
Is there a previous sign there that's been removed on this site?
there is a previous sign, and it was removed,
Oh.
and we'd be putting it
And this is
back
going to
up.
go in the same spot?
In the same spot. It's going to be a digital sign, which means that it won't need to be accessed that much, because it can all be done with computer over the internet and satellites now to be updated, rather than have people come out and put the vinyl up. The interesting thing is that the structure itself does not get bigger when it gets higher. And it's basically the size of a spare tire when it goes vertical like that. It's not very big at all. So there shouldn't be a problem in terms of getting a larger structure. So I appreciate the concerns. They're valid concerns to ask, but it should not be an issue.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lloyd?
question for the petitioner?
Go ahead.
So I just want to be clear what you're saying. You're saying that, as far as your understanding, the footprint should actually not get larger than the structure that was there prior?
Right.
Thank you.
Just the height is going to be different.
The height will be higher.
The other one was about, what, 60 feet?
45.
Oh, I'm sorry,
45.
45. And this is going to be 70. Mr. Jones?
Question.
My understanding is previously on this site, it was 70. And somehow it got taken down, and now we'd like to put up a 70-foot one again. We took down 3, but this one was 70. And now we want to put up a 70.
So,
Mr. Jones, go ahead.
okay, now, so it's gonna be the same height as before?
Yeah,
So you don't need to make a bigger base to
Right.
Because it was already there. Okay, that was my question, because if it was if it was a 45 before, and now it's a 70, you're gonna need more base to secure it. That means you would've had to go deeper without making the footprint any bigger. So if it's the same size as before, you can use basically to be the same footprint.
Yeah,
This is totally new sign, all new, the base? all the
yes.
way?
New sign, because it's going to be digital at this site.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to what that lady said, so your footprint isn't going to get any bigger. I mean, you're not going to infringe on them in any way.
Yes, exactly.
Okay?
And if there is, I'm sure she'll come back to tell
Okay,
the city
well,
what's
I'm just
happening.
saying,
But if you have to access that site, you have to go through their property, right?
Yeah.
Right, and they've been accessing the
that's-
site to get to the billboard, and it's worked out.
Just don't want
Okay.
to.
There's been no problem with that?
Any problems have been resolved. At the beginning, they were accessing the property without announcing that they were on the property, but now, knowing where they're at, they come in and speak to the gentlemen that are in charge. Obviously, with our business, we're a structural steel business, so generally, we're there Monday through Friday, so sometimes 7 to 5. So again, it's just following the times of when we're available, since it is a locked front gate and then also a back locked gate as well. Like I said, our biggest concern was just making sure that that footprint doesn't get larger, right? Because on the notice that we received, it said that it was getting approved from a 45-foot to a 70-foot sign, so I don't know. He said there was a 70-foot sign already, stated there, but I don't have document of that. I just have the document stating that it was being increased. So when it comes from that point, as long as, the easement agreement doesn't, change, the size of the sign stays the same, there generally should be no issue.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. You own the property there.
So we own
and
3632.
You leased that to the sign company.
Yes, it's a perpetual easement agreement.
Okay.
So there's, as he said, there's 3 billboard access points on that property piece. And that's just our vacant land that we just pay property taxes on, which backs up to the backside of our building. So if you're going down North Line Road, between the railroad tracks and 275, it's a big red building, and you just see the front of 36333, and then 36321 access point is only accessible from our main property going through the backwoods.
But in your agreement, there's access to that site, they have approval for access to that site?
Yep, on here, in the agreement, there is a point on it regarding access and making, obviously working with them and making sure that we're, it's part B with the access of the easement, along with other portions of it with visibility. So basically, there is pieces on that, but again, it's, us making sure that they had a road or a pathway to get back to the sign for those access points.
All right, thank you.
Is that agreement been recorded?
Recorded as in where?
At the county?
I know that this one is a notary. I only printed off the first few pages of it.
Okay.
It is in the county.
Okay, so it's a recording, you got all that?
Yeah.
Because the copy that was attached with the application didn't have that on there, so
Okay,
the
so I
question.
I just printed off the first part just because that's all I needed, but
Okay.
there is like quite a few page document that I
Okay.
can bring over tomorrow,
Okay,
so,
it'd be good to have in the file.
yes.
For both those signs, you are existing power to the sign. You don't have there's electrical power. It's already there for both signs.
Are we going to
There
need
was light.
additional powers run through to the signs? Okay, there will not be a need for additional power.
But you have power there
Right,
from the old sign.
right.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
Question to the chair, to Carol. Just out of curiosity, being that it was a 70-foot sign that was removed, and only a 45-foot was allowed, was there any history paperwork from the city on that?
You know, it was reviewed by the building department, and actually, I'm kind of digging through here to see what I can find.
Just out of curiosity.
I'm guessing based on the
I mean,
timing.
being from 2003 to current, it will have to, you got to go by the current codes. So, I mean, if it was a 70-foot sign in 2003
Well, it was 1999 it was erected.
to now, that could change. It could require a wider, deeper footing.
I'm just wondering, is there any paperwork that says it was, a waiver was granted back in 99?
Oh,
Yeah, I can't, I don't know if you guys pulled the file out, had the paper file?
I just
Check
curious
it.
is all.
Jeff did the review on that, so.
Well, I'm sure it didn't just sit there and nobody noticed, you know? But I will also point out that once the structure was taken down, then an additional variance would be needed to put a new one up. So that's why we're here.
I was just curious from a historical standpoint if there was any paper trail back to 1999.
Carol, do we get any taxes for these signs?
Oh, I don't know. Do you guys know that?
You would get the taxes on the
On
property,
the property, right.
so.
Nothing on the signs?
So are you meaning is the property a different, because it's got a billboard on it? A different rate? I don't know.
I was just wondering how that
That'll
was.
prompt a call to the assessor in the morning. Vacant versus a billboard.
Okay, we're doing pretty good. Any other questions or comments? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve BZA-2023-018, Joe Owen billboard to allow a 70-foot high billboard for pending the conditions recommended by the Building and Planning Department of 1, written approval from the FAA, and 2, permits and inspections as required by the Building Department.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lloyd, seconded by Mr. Frederick, to approve BZA-2023-018 for Joe Oram billboard at North Line Road at 36321 North Line. And the motion is to approve the requested variance from Chapter 48, Sign Section 48-7, specific requirements by type of sign to allow a 70-foot high V-shaped billboard where only 48-foot high is allowed. And that the motion is conditioned on the recommendations of the city planner and written approval from the FAA, permits and inspections required from the building department. Any questions on the motion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That request for that variance is approved. Good luck with that sign.
Thank you for your time and attention.
How many signs you got in Romulus?
He said 60. Good.
You think?
60. Lot of signs.
There's more out there than that.
Okay, item 7 is communications, and we have the city planner's status report. Let me get my act together here. Anything new on it that you want to talk to about on this?
No, there's a lot going on, a lot of odds and ends. Right now, with any of these, we don't have anything that we know you're going to be seeing yet. The planning commission meeting for November is going to be canceled. The cases aren't ready. December, we may have quite a few, but the plans aren't far enough along to know if any variances are going to be needed. But as you can see from looking at this, we have a lot of gas stations coming in. So that's we're looking at a lot of those.
Okay, number 8 is discussion. We had quite a bit of discussion about the park and fly.
Get this figured out.
Yes, you did.
I think that's quite an issue there. I think we have to kind of deal with.
And I do apologize. I haven't been part of that. Like I said, my department is, we deal with the permanent stuff. And the temporary's been kind of through the building department, and I'm not sure, we'll have Jeff update you next time, and you have some great questions. We'll get the attorney involved. I know Mr. Hitchcock has been involved with this issue. It was his recommendation, I believe, to process these the way we're processing them right now, is to get them out of the enforcement category and get them, something that we can work with, which is the temporary use, which gets them, allowed while we work on, in the Sheraton's case, future development. On some of these others, it's more permanent. So, but I will say this, I was a little bit surprised with your conversation, and you sounded, I wasn't here at the last meeting, I was up at the MAP conference, but you approved the Sheraton for 6 more months? But did you have the same conversation about, these, see, we told you, it's coming back, and here it was, or what was your?
We didn't have the same conversation because it's pending that they're going to develop that property and it'll be gone.
But
In 6 months?
Well, I want to be
Because
careful.
you only gave it a 6 month.
I want to be careful there. So the conversation, I think we have to be careful across the board, because they told us the same thing last time, right? So I didn't see their proclamation of potentially developing it as any different, because we don't know when that's going to happen, or if that's going to happen.
Correct.
So I want to address each of these as they come in on their own merit.
Right.
Right? And so I thought that was a challenging, maybe even dangerous space for us to, I don't want to address this petitioner based off the potential of other petitioners
Yeah,
coming in.
that's
So I think we got to be very careful there.
Yeah.
We're kind of got mixed emotions here. We're sympathetic to the hotel owner, and we're sympathetic to the
Parking lot people.
The parking people.
Airlines parking, and those kind of parking. So we're kind of,
Right. That's why I think it's important, we need to pull legal counsel in and give you some direction. I mean, I know you went into closed session on a previous case with this, and we'll talk to Jeff and Steve and make sure that we get you all the information and more that you need.
Oh, Mr. Hitchcock, give us
Yeah,
that
because
more.
it is a tricky, we've always taken the policy, or that long-term parking is a principal use. However, what we're seeing right now is it is allowed per our ordinance as a use. I mean, it says right in our ordinance, hotels with it, but it falls under that special land use, that permanent use thing, and there's, for example, the Clarion back several years ago wanted it permanent, and they were gonna build a structure. It was gonna follow and comply with all those special land use standards. What we're seeing right now is this available pavement.
That's all
And whether
we've been
the
the
available pavement's going to be developed, like what you talked about, for a whole new, different development, maybe as an outlet, versus what else do you do with it? And I haven't been part of discussions, that answer that question. What property rights does somebody have that's got a chunk of pavement to reuse it for another use, that's either totally redevelop it, or a use that is what they're deeming or calling accessory to the hotel operation. So,
Well, and also under that too is like the Sheraton has banquet rooms.
right.
Does the Clarion?
Do you know? Does the Clarion have
What did they
banquet
say?
Or is it
rooms?
just a hotel?
Conference rooms in there?
Oh,
I don't believe so. No,
Maybe
no.
not, right.
I think you're years right. ago, they used
But there's the differences, and in
it's a
fact,
much larger.
with the Sheraton's parking spaces that they were required when it was built, it was a Radisson when it was built, was based on the business it was conducting.
Right.
And their parking lot rich with business poor, so that's why they wanted the temporary use. This is different than what was requested tonight.
They are definitely different scenarios.
Because if they do
Yes.
develop that property, let's say that happens and it becomes, comes to fruition, then that's a gone deal. It's temporary's gone, it's something else now. What the young lady tonight was proposing was taking 30 of their spots, and there's never no development, it's just always gonna be a parking thing.
They bought the property with having, and the information at the time was a little bit difficult. It was, kind of COVID time.
I'm
and
sure it was.
The enforcement on the park and fly, I don't know all the details about it, but, we certainly weren't shutting.
I know for a fact, they're very fortunate Edna isn't on the BZA, because she would have had them. That's why I use the word due diligence, that's an Edna word.
Yeah. It just, but, we have a lot of people that, that's what we spend most of our day doing, is helping people that don't know this. They're from a different state. I don't know if the family owns other hotels, but they trusted the buyer that he could not produce anything to them saying he could or couldn't, they could or couldn't do park and fly. Didn't really know they were doing it, and nobody's shutting them down for it.
It reminded me
That's what she argued.
It reminded me
Yeah.
when GFL bought Nelson Paper Products, and we're continuing business, and they're
Yeah.
like, whoa, you
Yeah,
can't do
that's-
this and this there.
that's
They're
exactly
like, what?
right,
We didn't know,
yeah.
and Edna hit him with the due diligence thing like.
Right, that's it. So many people have no clue. So many, the letters that go out, daily with, we get, in fact, we got something today from the assessor's office, new transfers of property ownership. So the first thing the building department does is they start going through and, okay, send this nice letter. By the way, you do need to come and do this. You need to have city cert inspection. You need to, have your zoning compliance. But a lot of people have no clue.
See, now, something as simple as a billboard, that's why I asked the question, from a historical standpoint, was there any paper trail back to 1999?
There's a file.
Somewhere,
I just
yeah.
haven't seen
At
it.
99, we can probably find something.
Yeah.
It wasn't in here in 99 is when everything went electronic. But I don't know, when you guys review signs, you pull the old file. I don't know the process for, signs are all done, and thank you for giving credit for the planning reports. Most of these were Jeff's reports, the other one I did.
I did see that.
You're gonna find now, things are a little bit different. Most of this stuff is building, and so Jeff does those. I did the self-storage because it was a planning commission, which nice job with them. They have worked very hard trying to.
Her presentations are excellent.
That was a tricky site, and, as she was explaining, you lay that down and you think everything's gonna work, and, for us, it's just chop off part of it, just get rid of it, we need to be able to circulate around.
So, and from the average Josephine, driving down the road from Northline, they don't understand and look at the fact that the front yard is also 275.
Right.
And the fact that it's 34 feet in the air helps.
Yep. So no, they did a nice job getting a nice design and lots of, saving some of the trees and adding new stuff.
Giving
and-
our fire truck
and
circulation.
it did evolve. It was one of those that it wasn't, well, we know right from the start, we need these variances. Because you try to minimize that, of
Well,
course.
the 2-foot curb thing in the front, on Northline frontage,
My uncle-
that was for fire truck
cousin-
circulation,
Yeah.
charging the building, so.
That next door.
Well, the other thing too is about self-storage facilities, a lot of people are driving through those with bigger vehicles than they're used to, and they don't know how to drive, so those places get, jumping the
They get
curbs.
dinged up, yeah.
Yep. So.
Carol, I
But no,
wanted to
but
say-
back to the park and fly, we will, talk to Jeff, actually, I've talked to him right now. First thing in the
We just gotta
morning,
figure out what's illegal.
and, we'll get on that and get some better
like I said, I
direction.
didn't want to turn them down and find out that they can sue us.
I just wanted to say one quick thing
That's why
about
I
getting
wanna
back
talk
to
to
the
the attorney.
hotels and
Where do we
motels.
stand on this?
We have hotels and motels. The motels generally have smaller parking lots, to my recollection, from what I can see. But what would prevent them to come to us for,
And anybody has a right. Anybody has a right to covenants.
So,
Right now,
the word gets
Right now, for
out-
example,
Let's find out
I
where
have
we stand.
12 gas stations in the hopper. 12 of them that are out there. And we have to let people apply for things and go through the process. And this is where our processes come into play in terms of compliance. And that's what we have to stick with. And on this one, You know, we do need some legal counsel. I mean, your questions are very direct and very valid, but I think before we kind of discuss it further, let's just.
They're gonna be parked
But see,
here.
the word gets out that the city of Romulus will give you a temporary use for Park and Fly because they gave it to Sheraton Hotel, and the word gets out, and it's just gonna,
Well, you just gotta find out where we stand.
Yeah, we'll get a legal opinion and we'll.
so, well, you approved it for them, why can't you approve it for me, you know? They'll say.
Yeah, you're right.
Carol, quick question on your report.
Yep,
Second item under the super wide convenience store, Sheets 2, Middlebelt and Smith?
yep, they've got a second one.
But that's like, you could throw a beer can at it from
Well,
Sheets 1.
they're down, this is Middlebelt.
Yeah,
So,
it's just a mile?
yep, right off the, well, you see, some corners you have 3 or 4 gas stations.
I know, but
7-Elevens.
That's what I'm saying, is that
that Middlebelt Road is one exit up from, two exits up.
Two
Merriman
exits up.
Dining.
Yep. Yep, no diesel at that one, just vehicles, so.
So that would be the
Southeast corner. Yeah. For the most part, they've got, it's mostly M2 zoning. They do need a rezoning on it, probably a public hearing in December.
So it's a cardboard company on that side of the road and,
Yep,
Sheets would be
right
on the
across the
south
street
side.
from them.
yes, on Smith Road. Smith,
On
gotcha.
Smith, yep.
Smith.
Between
Smith.
Smith Road and the ramp.
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to clear that up in my head.
yep. So
Okay,
that one's under review right now. That one's the furthest along.
I bet.
A lot of them are still in the concept plan stages, a lot of traffic studies going on. They're all coming with, they're all special land uses at minimum. They're coming with rezonings, they're coming with, diesel fuel, which is gonna require waivers or rezonings, so it's actually been a lot of fun. Just, we've got these tools, we've got zoning tools to do it, but we just have to figure out where they're the most appropriate. So, and what kind of impacts, that's why the traffic, so obviously the traffic's so important.
Impact and overnight activities. Yes.
Right.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, number 9 is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Jones, supported by Mr. Lloyd, to adjourn this meeting. Take a roll call vote. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes?
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. This meeting is adjourned.